Hey guys, it is Volgaran back again. I've been away for a little while. I've been doing some things, but I've just played the alpha multiplayer test for Titanfall 2, as I'm sure a lot of you guys most likely have as well. So I was going to do a pretty detailed breakdown of my thoughts and whatnot for it, and how it actually all went, but you've all bloody played it, so you've all got your own opinions. I'm just going to sort of point out the highlights and the lowlights for me, what I'm excited for and what I'm a little bit concerned about. Overall, I thought it went pretty bloody well. We did have the server issues on the first day, I think it was, and I just had the most fucking horrible time trying to connect with my mates. For more than one game, like we get it all in the lobby by just inviting friends, and then by the next game, it had already split us up and put us all into different matches. I'm assuming just because the matchmaking obviously needs some kinks to work out, but that wasn't too bad. At least I got to play. That was the main thing that I was worried about. Now, what do I like about this one? Starting from the front screen, I kind of enjoy the idea of networks. Seems just sort of like a rip-off of clans, and also notice you have like hashtags for things. Not sure what sort of actual purpose they will play as the actual game comes out. Maybe it's just a kind of way to see who the leader of your group is. Like if you're the leader of the group, it would have hashtag your name. So I saw hashtag Volgaran everywhere, which is kind of weird. This isn't Twitter. What else? I liked the customizing of the pilots. The lack of customizability for the Titans was a little bit concerning, but in saying that, if we've got 6 Titans, and all 6 Titans looks to be like they have their very specific roles and play styles, so I'm not... Initially, I was a bit funny about it when I first logged on, but I'm kind of happy that we don't just have sort of like the chassis like we did from the first game, and then you sort of add what you want to it. So Ion was most certainly Ion and played incredibly different to Torch, which I'll get to in a minute. One thing that I detest in games is a currency system instead of a unlocking system. I understand like trying to sort of break the curve and try different things, but for me, currency systems have always ended up being more of a pain in the ass than anything. Games like Call of Duty Black Ops, although I fucking love that game, I just hated the currency system. And it also forces you to sort of choose and pick, and it doesn't feel like you're achieving anything. Like when you level up, there's no reason to level up. You're playing the game to gather currency. You're now not playing the game to gather experience to level up to unlock your next weapon. And for me, I think that's why I really like the Battlefield series, and very quickly, although I did enjoy the shit out of Black Ops, I very quickly stopped playing it. And there's the experience model is what they had in the first game. Hopefully though, it's kind of ends up being sort of difficult to gather the currency, so you can't just go and buy exactly what you want to start with. You have to work through the lower levels, and it forces you to try different weapons and different playstyles, which I think is good, because too many people get locked into this one particular way that they play, and they don't sort of branch out, so they're not seeing the full game. I really like it how you have to, almost. It's just like prestiging in Call of Duty. I'm sorry to be referencing Call of Duty so much, there's just a lot of similarities, funnily enough. Like prestiging when you get stuck back at level 1 and you have to go through, and you don't have the ability to actually use the weapons that you've used that whole time while you're sitting at max level. But we will see how it goes. I didn't actually unlock too much, to be honest. I do like, in saying about how much I don't like a currency system, I also like how it's either you unlock it at X level or you can spend this currency now to get it. That's good. I guess they kind of have like a hybrid currency system mixed with the experience system, which is pretty cool. I'm not mad about that at all. The pilots are pretty well customizable. That was really cool. Did a good job on that. Obviously the selection of weapons for something like a alpha multiplayer test, well, that's what it's saying. I assumed it was a beta. I hope it's a beta this close to bloody launch. Something like an alpha test, I wasn't expecting a massive multitude of weapons, but we did have a chance to try pretty much all the weapons. I didn't get the shotgun because that was incredibly expensive, and that second submachine gun, which everybody seemed to think was just the fucking tits, didn't quite get to use it. I only clocked probably 20 odd hours on the game. Yeah. Due to just sort of the time it went live here in New Zealand, and I had to work on the Saturday, unfortunately. So yeah, only 20 hours, but luckily they're doing it again next weekend. So I hope you all haven't deleted that 12 gig update, which would... Sorry for you. It took me overnight to download it. Anyway, I digress. I really enjoyed the gunplay. It was solid, much like it was in Titanfall 1. They didn't really change too much there. My biggest qualm with the game probably would have been the mobility. Now, they did say when they first announced Titanfall 2 and we saw all the trailers, especially when we saw the multiplayer trailers, a big thing that they stressed was it's going to be a bit slower. It's not going to be as balls to the wall, fast paced as it was in Titanfall 1, which immediately red flags for me. That was one of the things I loved about Titanfall, was how quick everything was. Now, and it wasn't quick in like a Call of Duty fashion, it was faster and it was more responsive. You felt less weightless, or more weightless, sorry. In this one you feel less weightless, you feel heavier, and your character has a bit more oomph and weight to your running, and you feel slower. They did do a very good job with the wall running. So with the wall running, as I'm sure you'll experience, if you can get a nice line like you used to in Titanfall 1, you could get some pretty slick speed. And the addition of the grappling hook really made for not necessarily easy lines, but once you figured out the basic lines around the map, you were able to chop and change and mix it up using the grappling hook. I really appreciated that, which also, that awesome thing about having the grappling hook, which sort of made up for the lack of speed in the mobility, was also the grappling hook's biggest downfall. Unfortunately, I found, why would you use anything but the grappling hook? I did play around with the other ones. The sonar knife was pretty handy. Being sonar's a pain in the ass. I kind of wish it didn't actually tell you if you were being caught in a sonar. I feel like that sort of, because as soon as that happens, you just get the fuck out of there. And especially if you got a grappling hook, you just turn and fire at the nearest building and you're fine. But I couldn't justify having, whether it's the holo pilot, which confused me a few times, I must say. I got duped a couple of times by him. Having the sonar knife, or any of the other ones. The only other one that I thought, sorry, kind of worked was Stim, but that's just because it was increasing the speed of your mobility. So I pretty much stuck with grappling hook the whole time. And the grappling hook, along with being one of the best new assets to the game, and also alienating itself and the other tacticals, also became the most useful thing when it came to fucking up Titans. Now, we all know, obviously, they've changed the way that rodeoing on Titans goes. I was again pretty concerned about that, because the best tactic when you get rodeoed, jump the fuck out, shoot it. Now, on Titanfall 1, when you just had free reign, after you pulled the initial flap off to fire into the wiring of the Titan, you could disengage at any moment. And I was a bit concerned that if you had a pilot jump on top of you when you're in your Titan, and you were to jump out and shoot that pilot would still be going through the same locked-in animation, and you can't cancel it until he pulls the battery out, and then it's the same. You can't cancel the grenade being thrown in. I didn't find that was much of an issue. Actually, quite the reverse. I found the issues with the pilots and the rodeoing of Titans was, if you're a clever motherfucker, you jump on, pull the battery out, and he always jumps backwards. So you jump backwards, and if you're good with your aiming, you grapple straight back onto that Titan. And then you jump on top, throw a grenade, jump back, grapple straight back on. You can essentially kill a Titan without touching the ground, and there's not that much they can do unless they get out to kill you or they have electric smoke. There's really about it. There's not much else you can do. So I felt that was slightly overpowered compared to the Titans, and it's kind of funny in a stark contrast. If you're a pilot and you're trying to kill a Titan with a anti-Titan weapon, unless you're using that charge rifle from really, really far away, you're kind of fucked. Right, as soon as that Titan sees you, you're kind of fucked. The lack of mobility of just moving in general, and the necessity of having a grappling hook kind of fucks you up a little bit. You can't escape very well. It's hard to have a fight with a Titan, especially if it's being piloted. I was quite impressed with the AI of the auto Titans. Their tactics were just a lot better than what they used to be, you know, which is, you'd expect that from obviously the second game. So I was a bit funny about the pilot to Titan link in this one. Overall, though, I was pretty happy with it. I didn't really find myself being down on my luck too much when it came to dealing with Titans and being in a Titan myself. I never finished the game and thought, fuck, that was unfair. You know, they've broken this element of the game for me, which they haven't. Now, in terms of using the Titans, I pretty much stuck with Ion the whole time, because I'm a big mobility kind of guy, as you know, the first 10 minutes of this video would have explained. And Ion certainly had the better mobility out of Ion and Torch. I did dabble with Torch, don't get me wrong. I just didn't like it. Just didn't like it, so I stuck with Iron. I have a passionate love of Iron Man, and Iron reminds me of it a lot, as I mentioned in my earlier videos. I enjoyed the tripwires a bit more than I thought I would. I assumed that it would be Titan onlys could trip it, but when I found out that pilots could, that just made my day so much better. What else? What else did I like? I liked how your Titan landed. It didn't seem as much of an event, you know, as it was in Titanfall 1, where this giant thing came firing down from the sky and slammed into the ground. You know, you used to be able to hear the roaring of it as it comes down through the atmosphere, and just a gigantic boom as soon as it hits the ground. Not so much in this one. It's there, it's just toned down a little bit. I'm sure you understand what I mean. And the only other thing I found with actually getting your Titan is getting into your Titan. I understand that it's a pretty cool animation. You get to see your actual character model jump into the Titan from a third-person perspective, but for me, and for a few other people by the sounds of it, they really enjoyed the first-person aspect of it, which I did. You know, it might make it a little bit, a little bit sick. It's a lot of moving around in all sorts of different directions, especially depending on which direction you jump to your Titan from. But I found it a little bit immersion breaking when it would back out to the third person. And in a lot of games where you go from first to third person, I find that kind of difficult. Even aiming in, what was it? In The Division, for example, a third person game, but if you aim with the scope, it zooms you right into first person, that kind of thing. It just fucks with the way that I like to play the game. Cool animations though, don't get me wrong. As far as Titans versus Titans, I really enjoyed it. The battles seemed to go very well. It was very, if two Titans caught you off guard, well, if you caught two Titans off guard, you could deal with them, but if they knew you were coming, you were fucked. Numbers was really the key for Titan fights, as it was in the other one, except if you knew what you're doing, you could sort of get your way around it, you know what I mean? The maps I found very forgiving for Titans, both the one with the bridge in the middle, I can't remember the names, I'm terribly sorry, you know the one I'm talking about, the one that's like in the middle of a town, with the broken down bridge in the middle. I liked the urban fighting, having things like the tripwire for Iron. It made cutting off people's paths and escape routes, I really like that. It's a bit more sort of tactical and strategic vibe to where you're actually fighting. You know, you don't just brawl it out in the streets, you retreat so you can get around, you know, like where they have the big targets, they have, you know, the big Titan targets, fighting around there, that kind of thing. I found that really awesome. Or fighting across the bridge, that was pretty cool, and the Titans as well. As for the other map, the one that's set out sort of in the country with the massive open plains, where that was, it didn't lead for strategic Titan battles, but it gave you a chance to just get together with, you know, 2 or 3 other Titans on your team and just fucking slog it out, which was pretty cool, I must say. I really did enjoy that, especially in the bounty mode, which I was glad to see the return of AI. I really liked that. Just, you know, it just sort of set Titanfall apart from the other first-person shooters that we had at the time, having their AI, which a lot of people didn't like. I personally really enjoyed it, and I was really, really glad to see that it was back in the bounty mode. I liked how they did it, the waves with the bounty mode, and to start with, it was a bit much. Like I jumped straight into bounty because I thought it's got AI that's going to be the one that's going to be so much like Titanfall 1, and I'm going to really enjoy this. I jumped in and I thought, oh my god, I don't even know which way is up, and it took me probably about 3 games before I sort of really understood how that game mode worked. Obviously, amped hardpoint. Now that was a really interesting one, because we all know the standard hardpoint or conquest or domination or whatever you want to call it, whatever franchise you're into. The amped side of it was really interesting, you know, adding it so it made it a good idea to sit on one point. You know, usually turtling doesn't work whatsoever, and it made it a bit easier, I found, when we were in a team and we were getting fucking rolled. We could all just sit on one point, and it gave you sort of a chance. You know, you were able to fight back because you were amping that point constantly, and it led to some really cool skirmishes and sieges, almost, you know, of the points. I thought that when you got it up to amped and it went down from amping, I thought that was a little bit too fast. It would have been nice if they'd slowed that down a little bit. But apart from that, I really enjoyed it. That it forced you to be objective based, which is great, because we all know that one fucking douche who jumps into domination or conquest or hardpoint just to get kills. You know, you're there to win the game, so you need to play the objective and work as a team, which a lot of people don't do, and it's so frustrating. But hey, if that's how they want to play the game, then they should be playing pilot versus pilot. That was an interesting one. It's essentially just COD. I didn't mind it. It was a good starter. I had a couple of mates who I played with. Obviously, Titanfall 1 not being on PlayStation 3 and being only on Xbox 360 and PC, had never played Titanfall before. And of course, the first thing they do is they say, "Oh, it's pilot versus pilot. This looks like something I'm familiar with." So they jump on in, and then they go, "Oh, we're just playing Call of Duty, but with slightly different abilities, and the parkour seems to be far more on point than Call of Duty has ever done." I just like to point out. I actually had one of my good friends, Yardley, said, "I don't think I like this game," and I was like, "Okay, that's cool. Like everybody has their own opinion. That's all right." And then we went and played and then 5 minutes later he goes, "Oh, my first Titan." So a lot of people aren't giving it, that have never played it before, didn't really give it the chance because they just went for pilot versus pilot, and of course they just essentially play COD. It's just like playing TDM in Battlefield 4. You might as well be playing Call of Duty. It's the same fucking shit, So I really enjoyed the game modes. Hopefully for next weekend's one, I would be thrilled if they even added a map instead of changing the maps. So maybe we have 3 maps. Maybe we even try, I'd really love to see attrition come back. To the best of my knowledge, I know that attrition, they don't have AI in it, or they're going to have either sort of AI versions of each game mode, which would be really cool. I really prefer the AI, and I like it because it evens the playing field. The skill ceiling on games like Titanfall, they can be pretty high sometimes, and especially when you're just going pilots on pilots and Titans on Titans, it can be really hard for someone trying to break in. Now, I was lucky when I got Titanfall 1 because I got it when it first came out, so I was able to grow with the community and play with them. Whereas I know friends of mine who picked it up after hearing me ramble about it for days on end, and they just couldn't. They died over and over and over and over again, and they never went positive, and they would never break even. And I really think that having the AI in there really helps sort of even that playing field. It helps you get your eye in it, understand how guns work. It helps you contribute to the team and not just be, a feeder, for lack of a better word, for those moped players out there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's look at my little list. What do we got here? Maps. I've covered everything. I really enjoyed this alpha test, and I have pretty high hopes for Battlefield. Dear God, blasphemy! I have really high hopes for Titanfall 2. We get to play it within the week, and I'll be playing it again, hopefully a whole lot more than I have been. I won't be as busy this weekend. And what I'll do this weekend is focus more on the stuff that I haven't tried. So I'm going to force myself to play Torch and force myself to use the weapons that I didn't normally use, and try and just stockpile that currency so I can try the shotgun and try the invisibility guy, cloaking dude, you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. We've had a lot of disappointments lately, especially with No Man's Sky. I felt like we got gypped on that one, and I'm hoping that Titanfall 2 can live up to the hype. I really hope so. Anyway, this has been me, your host Vulgarin. Thank you so much for watching. And by the way, just on a little side note, a lot of you guys have hit me up about content, which is true. I've been a busy man. I do a lot of other things. But if you would like to hear more of me rambling and being probably more funny and less informative and opinionated than I am on here, look up my podcast that I do with one of my best friends, Hamish, called Press X to Jump podcast, where it's just the three of us now. We've got 3 of us, and we're just beaming it out from New Zealand, and it's a good time. So look us up, Press X to Jump podcast. Please subscribe. Please like. We want to sort of get this ball rolling, because the bigger we get this community, the faster it moves forward. The more things I can do for you, and the more reasons I have to make more content, which I would fucking love. That's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody, and have a fucking lovely evening. I'll see you all probably next week. Goodbye.